The card that I'm working on today is the Three of Wands, and it's just a very powerful card. There's a lot of energy to it. So I want to get right into it and look at the RWS card. And it's a continuation of the card from the Two of Wands. And so the guy is not in the castle anymore. He's out and he's putting his plans into action. And he can do this with confidence because he's prepared. And there are some obstacles there. There's an ocean, there's mountains in the distance, there's some boats out there. So there's things going on, and he's not worried about it. He's confident, and he's out of his comfort zone, and he's out there doing things. And if we look at the tarot of the New Vision, we can see that behind him there is a caravan. So he's a leader too. And this card represents Sun and Aries. And that's just a very powerful combination. Sun and Aries, the sun is exalted in Aries. So there's just a lot of energy there. And I think that on Patch Tarot, that really illustrates that. There's just a lot of energy on this card. And I really like the colors in here and just the combination that they put together. So on the top here, it says purpose and idleness. Now, I think that it's great to have purpose. I don't necessarily think it's totally bad to be idle. I think sometimes we need that. Sometimes we just need to not do anything. And so there's no negative part. I don't think that's, two opposites as far as one being negative and one being positive, but it depends. But the main card I want to look at here is from the Starman Tarot. Now, I did not have the Starman Tarot when I first started looking at, when I did the Two of Wands card. I just put a picture of it up, but I did like the deck so much that I did get it. And I'm glad I did, because I learned something here when I read some information about this card, and I want to go ahead and share that with you. And I thought that it'd be good to include, because it put a little bit of a different twist to this whole, this card being so powerful. And let me just go ahead and read it. So this figure stands in his power, confident and ready to receive the riches and energy they bring, because he is clear about the greater purpose this abundance will serve. And then it says, this success carries with it the opportunity and obligation to be the very best one can be. He points out that very successful people realize that they are a channel acted through to create success in the outer world with little anxiety about losing their status and success. So they're not really worried about the success. They're not worried about their status. They're just trying to be the best person that they can be. And I feel like the message there is that they realize that there's an obligation, there's a responsibility when you have power. And I think that can be a big fault in society, especially now, where people try to just capitalize on things and they don't really think about other people. And they just become a part of the problem. And, I kind of learned something, and I reflected on that, and I thought about myself, and I thought, I want to make sure that I'm cultivating that love in my heart so that I'm not, becoming an issue like I can see in some cases. So the element that I'm going to be talking about is niobium. And niobium is named after the goddess Niobe. And it's interesting because this goddess was, of course, very powerful. She's a goddess. And I think her flaw, and, it's kind of obvious, was that she was boasting a lot about her success. And it created some jealousy among the other gods. And neither one is good, jealousy nor boasting. But, that's what happened in this story. And so what ends up happening is these gods that got jealous, Artemis and Apollo, they assassinated her children. So she had a bunch of children, and that's what she was mainly boasting about. And I don't think it's anything wrong to boast and brag about your children, but I think the moral of this story is just, about boasting and throwing things in people's faces in general. And so, it created this jealousy, and she became known as the goddess of tears after that, because of course, she lost all of her children because of this. And I think that maybe one of the things was, when she was doing this, she wasn't really thinking about her children. Maybe she was just more putting herself on a pedestal. And, that's okay to a certain extent, but I think that, it was just a little bit extreme, and maybe these gods got tired of it. So that's part of the story. The other part of the story is that niobium, when it was found, they thought that it was actually the element that's right below it, because they have similar properties. And that element is tantalum. And tantalum is named after her father, Tantalus. So when they realized their mistake, they said, "Oh well, let's just name niobium after let's just name niobium, after the daughter of Tantalus, Niobe." And so he still had his faults too. He still had problems too. He was kind of prideful, and well, very prideful. And he had a clash. He had a problem with his son, and so he had his son killed. And he decided, I don't know what he was thinking, but he decided to serve his son as one of the main dishes in a meal and invite all the other gods. And this pissed them off. They were like, "How could you do this?" It was just like, one of the worst things that they could imagine doing. And so his punishment was legendary. He was condemned to be in this river and just stay in this river, but he couldn't drink any of the water. It would always recede away from him. And then he had all these trees around him with fruit, but he could never grab the fruit. And so he was just hungry and thirsty forever. And so I think that it's just a good idea to, from the very beginning, even when you're making your plans, to think, okay, well, how is this going to affect other people? And I'll give you another example. And so this book right here, I think I've mentioned it before, but I'm not sure if I still have the video up. It's called The Disappearing Spoon, and it's by Sam Keen. And he talks about the periodic table and all the elements and how they were, either discovered and how they've been involved in different stories throughout history. And one of those stories really ties in here with niobium and tantalum. And these two metals are they're kind of rare. They're going to run out within the next 5 decades, but they are vital to cell phone technology. So these cell phone companies, these huge corporations, they went out to Africa because there's an abundance of it there, and they wanted people in Africa to mine this stuff. And at the time, it was just bad timing. So they had this plan, they thought about all this stuff, but they didn't think about how it was going to affect the people. Because at the time, there was a lot of wars going on between different tribes. There were these ethnic kind of racial battles going on. It was just really weird. There's a big history behind that I'm not going to get into. But I want to talk about how the cell phone companies were involved here and how they made it worse. So they were just, capitalizing on this, capitalism, just go out and get what you need. And they thought, okay, well, what harm could it cause? Well, this was the problem. The problem was these people were using that money. They were earning 10 times more than they would earn just like as farmers or whatever. And they were using that money to help fund the wars with other tribes. And they were also using that money to, just commit all kinds of other crimes and atrocities and take down, cause problems with the government there. And the other thing is that they stopped farming. And because they stopped farming, the food supply, of course, got low, and they started hunting a lot of the endangered species. They almost hunted the gorillas to extinction because they wanted gorilla meat. And, and then when these companies saw that, they started pulling back. But they didn't initially anticipate this. They didn't initially even think about what was going on in that area and how this might affect it. And they did pull back, but I still think that had they just taken a little bit of forethought and just said, okay, well, let's see how this would affect people, instead of just saying, hey, we need our cell phones. I mean, of course, I have a cell phone, and I'm glad I have it because, sometimes I sit there and I think, man, I would be an idiot if I couldn't, go on Google or YouTube and research something, the stuff that I wouldn't know. And, it has its advantages, but at the same time, if I knew that it was causing, huge issues, I'd want things to be done differently. I'm sure there's things that could have been done differently. So yeah, when I look at this card and I think about, having purpose and expansion and exploring, I'm glad that I combined it with these elements and with what I learned from the Starman Tarot, because it helped me put a much better message together, I think, because it's not just about exploring and going out and getting what you need. The other thing about niobium is before they named it niobium, they actually named it, they thought it was tantalum. They named it Columbium, after the colonies, the American colonies. And it's named after their name, and I didn't know this. I don't see how I didn't catch this in all these years, but Columbia is this goddess, and it's the goddess of America. So America has this goddess, and I didn't even know this. And I've seen this goddess before. When you watch Columbia pictures and that goddess holding, that's Columbia. And I just saw it and I thought, well, what is this, a take on the Statue of Liberty or something? I had no idea. And so this is a goddess. She's like this fierce goddess of capitalism. She is the personification, the female personification of the United States. And, it's just this very poetic kind of way of showing, that attitude of going out and accomplishing your goals and making your dreams happen. And it's just that I don't think there's anything wrong with capitalism, but I think that you just have to have the right motivation, and it can work. It can totally work. But when you start stepping on people, then of course, it's just gonna be selfish and wrong. And I think that things, we could see some things changing, but it's just that, I think that it's important to, at the foundation, right now, especially for me, to really start thinking about that, to start just cultivating that, to start just building that. And that's what I want to do. So yeah, so one of the last things I want to mention is niobium. You can get it, and it does have metaphysical properties. It's usually always found with tantalum. They're together. And it's just a very beautiful crystalline metal. I mean, it just has this beautiful pattern to it. It's actually not in this crystal encyclopedia that I have here by Judy Hall, but tantalite is there. And let me see if I can find it here. So tantalite soaks up negative energy and protects against psychic vampirism and environmental pollution. Gird and wear tantalite to reflect radiation and other adverse energies. Tantalite overcomes chemical pollution, energetically removing consequent disharmony at a cellular and etheric level. It removes hooks, attachments, implants, mental imperatives, and core beliefs, and overcomes obsession, craving, and addiction. This stone stabilizes the environment. Excellent for decision making. It holds back until the full picture is obtained. Cool, it holds back until the full picture is obtained, Yeah, you don't do anything until you have the full picture. It's really cool, but it's good for the environment. I think that'd be a good stone for right now. I don't have it. I don't know where you can get that one, but because it just helps cleanse the environment and it helps you detach from all the toxic things in your environment. And that's really interesting. That's awesome. So now, before I go, one other thing I want to do is there is a deck that I have, and I haven't used it much, is the Divination of the Ancients. And what I wanted to do on my channel, and I know there's been a lot of things on my channel that I wanted to do and I haven't done them. But some things come and things go. And so I want to include this deck at the end of my videos. And what I want to do is I want to pull a card, because this deck, it looks at different forms of divination, not just tarot, because I think I've been focused on tarot a lot. And I want to see what it tells me for the week and just kind of focus on that and see if that helps me. Helps me reflect, helps me to go inward and explore my inner self. So let's do that. Let's just pick a card from here. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle this up. And it's because it's not really a deck that I use for like reflecting or anything, or making decisions, but it is a deck that I think would really have a good use as just like not forgetting about these other different forms. And we got feather messages. There's this bird that built a nest right outside my house out there. And I saw it and I was like, I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm just going to let it stay there. I don't mind. And even when I go out that door, it's right out that door right there. And even when I go out that door, like the first time I went out, I startled a little bit. And so now I just go out the different door because I can go around to the balcony the other way. And I don't go out that door anymore because I just respect it. I don't know. I just don't want to disturb it, and I just have a lot of respect for it. It looks like a stellar jay. If I can get some pictures of it, I'll show you guys a picture. There's a bunch of them that live around here. It's these beautiful, like dark blue and black birds. And I mean, they just live all in the trees back here, and I hear them, and I see them almost every day. And I just think that it really fits in with what we're talking about here. I mean, I could say, well, this is my home, and I want to take this nest down, but it's not causing a problem for me. So I don't know. I have to think about this card more. I've never really used feathers. I mean, I've collected a couple of feathers here and there. I know people use feathers to cleanse sometimes. They use feathers to write. Feather messages. Maybe write something with a feather. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I don't know. What do you think about feather messages here? Because I think it's just something very new to me. Maybe I just need to try something new. Research it and find out about it. So I'm going to end this, and I just want to end this by saying I'm very grateful for all of your comments, for your friendship, and just for, even the things that I've learned from all of you. And so I really appreciate that. And so I just wanted to say that. And thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Will. This is Atypical Tarot. I'll see you next time.